Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is HeroQuest, and today we are going to generate nearly an entire HeroQuest campaign just out of Axebane's deck of mini dungeons and associated expansion, as well as Axebane's dungeon, cavern, town, and tombs, catacombs generators. We have here a deck of shuffled deck of mini dungeons cards. No extras in here, it's just the basic deck with all of the cards included except for the jokers, the aces, and the kings. And the aces are the beginnings to our dungeons, the kings the endings. We've got our reference cards all separated from the expansion and the deck of mini dungeons, ready to roll on some tables. We have our expansion here to the deck of mini dungeons, but we won't incorporate these until a little bit later in the campaign. And then we've got our 4 individual 18 card decks. To begin, we are going to be super simple. We're going to create a regular dungeon based completely off of what we draw out of the dungeon deck. So whatever this card is going to be our HeroQuest dungeon. We can use an online name generator if we don't want to come up with our own name for this dungeon, but generally speaking, we will either enter or exit from the bottom of the existing board. Translating this to the HeroQuest board means that we will have access to one of these 2 rooms. Then we will provide corridor access to the corner rooms. And look at this, the corner rooms on the card are 4x4s, which are perfectly matched to the 4x4 rooms in the corners of the HeroQuest board. From here, we will provide corridor access down the left or right. The right only if a hero uncovers the secret door in the corner of the room, as noted by the secret passageway icons on the card. We will have 2 corridors lead to the center of the room, which will be where a boss fight occurs. This involves the undead, as the rest of this dungeon does. And finally, the lower left-hand room will be a dead end, whereas the right lower corner of the board, we will be able to continue along the corridor to the center. It is here that we will be able to fight a boss and then exit this dungeon. There's no center lower room on the board, so we'll just use this one, being the bigger of the 2 options, close to the center. The path to get here was more or less the same as it would have been if we had just followed a map that was drawn up to the card, proportions 1-to-1. Having drawn from our catacombs deck, we will set this off to the side so that we don't draw from it again. And it is at this point you can even offer your heroes a branching narrative, giving them access to a proper dungeon, a cavern, or a town. You can make this be the outcome of a choice that they made during the dungeon, an action that they performed during the quest itself, or you can make this a choice in between quests. If you'd like to go along a more baked route, might I suggest going into a cavern. We'll lightly shuffle and then draw from the cavern deck. I don't want to follow the same layout as the last quest where we entered from the top, so we'll enter from the left this time, and we'll have access to 2 of the rooms after a split in the corridor. This T shape here after the end of a passage, we'll go ahead and emulate by going through this section and then going either north or south to access the top dead end room or the bottom room, which leads into the 3rd room. And here's the room that we will access, and here's the room that we will gain access to. And this room goes into a 4th room, which is a dead end, which we can go ahead and make this room here, or we can head north. We'll go ahead and have our heroes be able to head north and then right into room number 5 on the card, or they will be able to continue north into room number 6. 6, I would say, is here. If you wanted to tighten this up a little bit, you could also say that this is room 1, room 2, room 3, room 4, room 5, and then room 6 can actually be in the center of the board. You just need to block off the corridor here. Now the flavor of the implied narratives on the card remains intact. We'll put the caverns deck to the side. Okay, the generating of the actual dungeon and where the doors go and things like that is one important component, but we've been skipping traps, we've been skipping monsters, we've been skipping furniture. Let's not do that. We'll take this trap table and we will convert it for HeroQuest use. Our random trap generator has a trap type, which isn't really important for this. You can use any of the trap types. Spot and disarm, difficulty levels, triggers, and damage in D6s. Or D8s or D10s, none of that matters. We're converting this. So trap type, you can actually keep that. The flavor of the trap and the type it is, that doesn't so much matter. The spot or disarm comes in 4 flavors. We've got easy, moderate, hard, and very hard, along with values from 10 plus to 25 plus that no doubt correlate to 5th edition. Keeping it to HeroQuest, we're going to assign mind points to each of these categories, so 2, 3, 4, and 5. As Zargon, you get to decide if you want to incorporate the trigger type, but for the damage, we will roll 1 combat die, roll 2 combat die, automatically apply 1 body point of damage, or automatically apply 2 points of body damage. The point of having the mind points associated with the spot and disarm has nothing to do with actually spotting or disarming the trap. All of that's going to be normal rules, search for traps, disarm trap actions. It's the fact of whether or not the trap gets generated. So if a barbarian enters a room, as is almost always the case, and you roll on the trap table, then anything you roll is going to be something that can be generated. Having rolled a 4, we will say that the pit of acid is something that goes into this room, and as Zargon, you get to decide where. Whereas if the unheard of happens and a wizard enters the room having a higher MP, well, let's reward the bravery and also the additional danger of a wizard opening a door. And say that you roll this dice, but only values that get into this section with the wizard's MP are the ones that would be valid. If anything less than the wizard's MP is rolled, or the wizard's mind point tier, then the trap actually doesn't exist and no trap gets generated. That's just one way of doing it, and this is a suggestion. You can take that suggestion, modify it, do it any other way you wish. For monsters, we can take a variety of the cards from the deck of many dungeons that have monster generation tables, or you can, of course, make your own after rolling on these tables a few times and deciding what works best for you and your party. And also for the theme of the dungeon, the monster table doubtless is going to have entries that you do not want to incorporate into your game at all, but I think that it's interesting to have a D6 generation table with the top result being a none, and then following the rules on the rest of these to apply to existing monsters in your HeroQuest game. You can go ahead and keep the orcs. I would replace an animated armor per PC with goblins, replace the basilisk with abomination, replace the ghost with a skeleton, and replace the hill giant with a chaos or dread warrior. I think I would drop the per PC requirement, or you could keep it for that one. It would just make things really hard. You may be wondering, at what point does the deck of many dungeons get incorporated? Well, we've generated 2 quests. We'll generate our 3rd with the deck of many dungeons, and we'll do so by randomly drawing an ace card, which is going to be the entrance to our dungeon, and then drawing from the deck of many dungeons until we have created the dungeon itself. And we don't need to follow any specific rule set or standard to do this. We can flip the cards as needed. We can place the cards on any leg of the dungeon as we so require. And we can use the 4 kings, which usually would indicate the end of a quest, end of a given dungeon. But in this case, you can actually end it with any of the rooms because we're not going to do it down to 2nd level. And you can decide which one of these rooms is going to have the boss or other special events in it, because you'd be deciding the same thing when you use a king to represent the end of the dungeon anyway. All right, as we can see here, we have a dungeon with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms. Not a very big quest, but these short, snappy quests make for gameplay sessions that actually allow you to play more than one quest, which is a rarity with some parties. I'm not speaking from experience, you're speaking from experience. And I can go through and explain what needs to happen in each of these rooms, or I can just go ahead and take these cards and say, this is quest number 3, let's place this to the side because I'm building ahead of time. Okay, the 4th quest is not going to be a quest, it's going to be a town break. We'll go ahead and take a card from the town deck. And then we get to decide what the numbers on each of these houses mean. Are these going to be representative of the different places that you can go in between quests? Are they going to represent monsters that are inside of the houses? Are we going to try to take this and incorporate it onto the board in some way? I think that's not necessary for this inaugural game idea, but we can set this card down in front of the players and tell them about the town that they have entered. What race predominantly inhabits this town? How long has it been here? What kind of history does it have? Is it far away from dangers, or are the local caves and graveyards host to blighted, dreadful creatures, the likes the world has sadly all too often seen? More importantly, what do the numbers mean? You can, if you wish, write out on the back of the card what you would like these numbers to mean ahead of time, or you can place the card in a sleeve and draw or write on the sleeve if you're able to, if you want to save the card. You can also create different tables apart from the card. 6 different tables that have the same 6 house or building types, just arranged in different orders, would suit very nicely. Then you can roll to see what configuration this is going to have. So if this is configuration number 5, then that means I've got 2 houses that are NPC houses, the 3rd is a blacksmith, the 4th is a general goods store, the 5th is a church, and the 6th is a tavern or inn. Next, you get to roll a die to determine how many of these establishments the heroes are able to visit in this session. And it's going to be 3. Which means, what did I say? 2 of these are NPC houses and the third is the blacksmith, so that's where the heroes get to go. Now, NPC houses can mean gifts of gold, and what kind of gold gifts are we talking about? 4 times 10 in this case, if you wish, 1d6 times 10, or 1d6 times 5 for each house that they visit. Perhaps this value is different for each house. Perhaps it goes up with the number, so 1 times 20, 2 times 20. So then if your last building types in the list of 6 are houses, then that's going to be a 6 times 20. Just gifts that the NPCs are giving to the heroes to say, thanks for saving my kingdom, thanks for taking on the quest. These can also be side quest rewards. These can also be rewards that are pledged to the heroes if they survive the next quest. So instead of getting this house and getting a 1 times 20 or a 2 times 20, 2 for the house, 1 if it's a dice roll, 20 to 40 gold, now that's part of the prize that you're going to get if you finish this next quest. So now the heroes will kind of know what they're going to get just by finishing the quest, not even factoring in the treasures that they get from the quest itself or searching rooms or whatever. If you're not using any sort of homebrew at all, besides obviously this homebrew, then the blacksmith, indicated by the 3, can just be the armory. And if you'd like, you can always make sure that your armory is spot number 1, so your heroes are always getting to visit the armory in between quests regardless, because you're not going to roll less than a 1 on your how many houses can you visit today. You may also decide that the heroes can visit all of the places on a given card, but if you do that, instead of having like 6 tables, go ahead and have 1 table for each of these cards. Otherwise, the cards themselves are pretty meaningless. If you'd like to give additional meaning to the cards and the art on the cards, you can go ahead and count the houses out. And the amount of houses can be multiplied by a value to indicate the size of that town's treasury. And a percentage of that treasury can be offered to the heroes if they win the next quest. Those are town visits, and we can move on with our campaign. We've had 3 quests and a town visit. Our 4th quest will be from the dungeon deck. A light shuffle and then a draw, and then we are going to go into a dungeon that has 6 rooms and 2 corridors. Now, whatever deck you're using to create the quests, you're pretty much just going to have 6 rooms of import. If you'd like to extend your HeroQuest dungeons a little bit more, you can have secret doors, and you can use the deck of many dungeons to determine what's behind that secret door. In this case, don't use any of the aces, just draw straight from the deck. This one would add an additional 3 rooms and an exit to your dungeon if the secret door is searched for at the end of a corridor and you allow it. There's also a secret passage leading into a very small room that has a hard lock on a treasure chest. You could incorporate this as its own whole room for a 4th room, or you could go ahead and just say that this is in this room here, secretly hidden away. A treasure chest that's found by searching for traps or secret doors, or treasure. Now, if we wash, lather, rinse, repeat, we can actually do this ad infinitum. We don't need to stop at 4 quests in a town, but we have a perfectly valid mini campaign at this point. If you take these 4 decks and you shuffle them all together, then you don't even need to incorporate the deck of many dungeons. You can just translate these quests directly onto the HeroQuest board. You can use your own pre-built rolling tables if you wish, or you can take the enemies themselves directly out of another campaign book, like the Frozen Horror or the base game system, Keller's Keep, and you can just take each room of enemies and drop it right into the 6 rooms presented by the cards. Of course, justifying how you would like to handle the town events on your own. And now that we've shuffled our 4 18-card decks all together, this is the order in which we will actually have our campaign. So it's going to start in a dungeon, which I might use the term dungeon interchangeably, but this is specifically from Axebane's dungeon deck. Then we go into another dungeon, and you get to decide how you're going to actually translate these details onto the HeroQuest board. There's a lot of ways you can do it. For our 3rd quest, we're going into some catacombs. For our 4th, back into the dungeons for quest number 5. Quest number 6 is a dungeon. Quest number 7 is Ash did not shuffle these very well at all. Quest number 8 is a town break. 9 is another town break. You might not want to allow 2 of these in a row, or you might want to because, you know, different sections of town, different opportunities to visit different buildings if you are using the D6 for access mechanic. This is just day 2, and then, okay, look, I didn't really shuffle these like the best, but you could run into this situation even if you did shuffle them. So, all right, okay. Next we go into some caverns, then it's caverns again, and then it's into the catacombs. 7 proper dungeons, then Perhaps you give the adventurers a choice of which direction they'd like to go to reach 4 different towns, or it's 2 different towns, but they spend 2 days in whichever town they go to, then 4 more dungeons. This is actually an 11 quest campaign. You can still allow armory access in between dungeons, or for a challenge, you can say that these are all played sequentially. The heroes do get to rest up, they just don't get to spend their hard-earned gold on anything. But believe me, by the time they are ready to leave Dungeon 7, Quest 7, they are ready to spend serious amounts of gold. You can also take the town cards, place them off to the side, and say, okay, heroes, you get to visit this town, these towns, at any point during your adventure you like, but once you do, that town is considered to be visited and traveled away from, and it is in the distance. So you have 4 opportunities. You must all agree amongst yourselves on when these opportunities are. Obviously, you need to finish a quest first, and you can't visit any towns after you finish the last quest. So choose wisely when you get to visit these 4 towns. And you could even at this point, if you wish, roll on the access that each town provides, giving the heroes an added element of strategy that they can incorporate as a group of players into their game. So if you rolled a 1 for access on this town, then that means the heroes know if they use this town as a break that they're only going to get access to, the tavern or the armory or just an NPC house that offers them a reward or just the church, whatever the case may be. And they might want to save the town visits for the higher rolls of 6s where they get access to everything for the later parts of the quest when they're really needing the help that particular town offers. You can also build a campaign, a completely original campaign using only the deck of dungeons, the deck of many dungeons, over and over and over again. You don't have to use any of the individual generator decks, but you could definitely go through and choose your own cards to represent what you would like to put as a quest for your game, and you could go ahead and build your campaign ahead of time. You don't have to draw anything. You could just say, this looks good, and then I need a cavern, a card, so I'm going to take that one, and then I need a big city, so I'm going to take that one, and then I'm going to need 2 more dungeons, and they're going to be 1 level after another, so I'm going to take those 2, and this is going to be my campaign deck. Yes, I have the power. If at this point you wish to incorporate deck of many dungeons, you could go ahead and take the cards that would make that particular dungeon. So if I want to take this ace, the 2 5s, and the 7, and maybe swap out the 7 for a king just to have a big room, then that is going to be something else I put into this deck in whatever order I want. I can have these 4 cards be just after a town, just before the last 2 dungeons of this campaign, whatever the case may be, I could do that. And I could pre-build a campaign. I could take these, put them in a nice little card jacket, a sleeve of some kind, and I could write on there, Keller's Revenge, or Return of the Frozen Horror, or Against the Witchlord Horde. Trying to stretch these various Axebane creations to get the most value out of them is not really a difficult exercise. There's a lot of inherent value here. And I didn't touch on the expansion to the deck of many dungeons that much because really it's just more opportunities to create corridors. So when you put this into your game, where you are utilizing the deck of many dungeons to generate a dungeon room by room, corridor by corridor. By incorporating this expansion, you are just adding more opportunity for that dungeon to get bigger. And it will never really get so big that it goes off of the board. As long as you're smart about not letting rooms loop back into themselves, you can totally use this as a dungeon generation tool on the fly, and you can use these to generate dungeons for solo play. Mixing the king card into your deck so that whenever you finally get to the king card, that's the end of the dungeon. You could do it Warhammer Quest style as well, where you have maybe 6 cards that you know you're gonna have to go through, and then the king card, which represents the end, again, of the quest, is shuffled lightly into the remaining 7. So you have a planned minimum and maximum amount of cards that will make up your quest for the day. Brave Heroes, thank you so much for watching. All links to pertinent items shown here will be in the description below. That was a terrible spread. I will see you in the next exciting adventure, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your journey. Farewell for now.